name is Maddie or Books with Maddie, and today I'm going to be showing you all of the books that I read in November. So like I said, today is my November wrap-up, but before I get into the actual books that I'm going to be talking about, I wanted to thank the sponsor of this video, Ana Luisa. I talk about them all the time. They are so generous. They sent me 3 new pieces for this video that I'm really excited to share with you. If you don't know what Ana Luisa is, they are a designer jewelry company that has really affordable pieces because they don't have the luxury markup on their pieces. They sustainably source all of the products that they use to make their jewelry, and they are just a company that I believe so strongly in because they are really conscious of their environmental impact. And so I'm so passionate about this brand, and I'm so excited to show you the 3 new pieces that they sent me today. I'm wearing 2 of them now, but I will show you close-ups of all of them. The first one, this thicker gold piece that I'm wearing, and you can see here, is called the Aina Necklace. I'm not sure. This is such a cool necklace. I have been wanting this one for quite a while since I saw it on the website. It is really like simple and elegant, but it can be layered like I did in the video. Just like lays very simply on your neck, and it's very, very elegant and very cool, and it can be dressed up or down, and I'm like so excited about it. The other one that I'm wearing in this video is the Lexi Necklace. This one is like really great for layering because it has like this pendant, but the chain is very like simple, so you could layer it with some more like complicated chains and like thicker chains. But this one I'm like absolutely obsessed with. The tiny pendant on the bottom is like a body, which is like something that I am like so obsessed with. If you don't know, like I'm obsessed with all kinds of jewelry that has like faces or like bodies on it, and so when I saw this I was like, I absolutely need it, and I'm so grateful that they sent it to me because I'm like actually so obsessed with it. I am the biggest fan of this necklace, and I will be wearing it like all the time. It is so cool. And what's really cool about all of their necklaces, these pendant ones, is that you can adjust the length. There's multiple loops on the back that you can change to make them shorter or longer, and so you can kind of adjust based on what you're wearing or what kind of other necklaces you're wearing at the same time, what kind of neckline you're wearing. It's just very cool. Very excited about it. The last necklaces that I got for this video are a set of 2 necklaces. This is the Temple Green necklace set, and I'm actually obsessed with this. I've recently become really obsessed with the color like sage green, like emerald and sage green, and so when I saw this I like absolutely requested it because I'm obsessed. And I like how these 2 necklaces are different kinds of chains. It kind of spices things up, adds some diversity in there with your necklaces, and so I'm really excited. And these also come separately. They're not like attached in the back, so you can use these necklaces separately or together with different necklaces. Very exciting. The opportunities are absolutely endless, and I am absolutely obsessed. So if you're interested in checking out Ana Luisa, I highly recommend you do it now because they're having a giant holiday sale and you want to take advantage of this moment. So right now, biggest sale of the year, buy one get one 60% off. Like, absolutely take this opportunity to either purchase some jewelry for yourself or for a loved one. I mean, this is versatile jewelry. This goes with everything. So I would highly recommend, if you're interested, now is the time. Buy one, get one, 60% off. Highly recommend it. I'm absolutely obsessed with this jewelry brand. I wear their jewelry every single day. I'm so passionate about this jewelry brand. I highly recommend you check them out. I will have all of their links in the description below. I will link these necklaces in the description below, so all of the information that you'll need will be down there, so please check them out. And with that said, let's move on to the November wrap-up. Okay, November has been a month. It's been a time. November, it came, it went, it destroyed me emotionally. So basically what happened in November is I realized what kind of situation I was in vis-a-vis my reading goal of 100 books, and I was at like 60 something probably at the beginning of November. It's not going well. So I was like, I need to read a lot of books in November. But then school was like, no, you have to do school. And basically I'm in this mock trial class, and we had our like 2 competitions, and I was gone for several weekends, and so I really had very little time to read, and it was also like final season coming up, so did not have a lot of time to read. Did read 12 books, which is good. I wish I had read more than 12. Being in December now and having to read 18, I wish I had read more, but it is what it is. These are all basically going to be a surprise for you because none of the books that I was supposed to read for my December No, my November TBR I read. So there will also be no ranking situation because I didn't read any of them. Literally not one of them. I'm going to be telling you all the books that I read. I'm going to be going from lowest to star. I've actually organized this video. Be very proud of me. I'm going from lowest ratings to highest ratings, 2 stars to 5 stars. No 1-star books this month. Let's just go. So first 2-star book. We're going to get through this one real fast because we're still on our Shakespeare kick from our class. Timon of Athens, Timon of Athens, whatever you want to say. This is the Shakespeare play. 2 stars, like literally every other Shakespeare play ever. This one, I can't even remember what it's about, and I need to know what it's about because I have an exam in like 3 days. So this one is like, is this the one? I genuinely can't remember what this book is about. I'm having a panic attack. Oh my gosh. Okay, I think I remember. This is the one about Timon of Athens, and he's basically like, everyone loves me because I give them money, but then when he actually needs help and he runs out of money, nobody helps him, and then he runs away because he's mad at everybody, and then he like basically goes into the forest and goes crazy, and then when people are like, hey bro, what's up with that, like, you need anything? He's like, literally leave me alone. And then he's like, I'm gonna go to Athens and kill everybody. Or no, wait, I think he hires somebody to do that? I don't know. But then nothing ends up happening. That's like what I remember. It was stupid. It was extremely not memorable. 2 stars. Next. Now the next one is a little bit controversial, I feel like. But also maybe not that controversial because I feel like it has pretty polarizing opinions. I listened to this one on audio. It is The Deep by Rivers Solomon. I also gave this one 2 stars. I don't know what even this book was. So how it was marketed to me and how I feel like it was presented was a story about the Middle Passage. So back in like when was the Middle Passage? Like 1600s, 1700s, when Americans and other just like white people were literally going to Africa and taking the Africans and transporting them on ships back to America to be slaves. And it's about how, well, what I thought it was about how on that Middle Passage, when they would have like, I think this genuinely happened in history, which is awful, is they would take some of the black women who were pregnant and then toss them overboard because they didn't want that like extra person like on the ship. But basically, this story was supposed to be about the women who were tossed overboard and their children being born as mermaids, which is an incredible plot. Like, so much potential there. The babies, like the people, the mermaids who were descended from those women who were tossed overboard are called the Wajinru. And they're basically a merfolk race of people who descended from women who were tossed over during the Middle Passage. I think that premise is fascinating and like absolutely incredibly moving, and I don't think it was fulfilled in the way that I thought it was going to be fulfilled. The focus of the story was really on like the future, like almost like present day, but maybe not quite present day, like many years after the occurrence of the women being tossed overboard. So I thought it was going to be the perspective of like the Middle Passage, the women being tossed overboard and the babies becoming mermaids. I don't know exactly how that would be narrated because like the babies probably wouldn't be able to narrate. So I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but this is from like many years after, where it doesn't seem like the Wajinru know what they're quite descended from, because honestly, I feel like I'm definitely not the best person to like talk about this book. Like, you should find other creators who are talking about this book, because I kind of like didn't really understand, I feel like, a lot of it was like really heavily based off the importance of history. And so one person, and the main character was this person, I believe they were called like the historian, and they basically held all of the history for the Wajinru people, and then once every couple of years, I believe it was, I think it was like every 3 years, they would show the Wajinru their history. They would have to acknowledge all of this history at once, and then it would be taken away again, which was a little bit confusing to me, because I felt like the story couldn't really get through. It felt like there was something stopping the story every time it tried to be heard. And so the tale became more about this main mermaid who was the historian, and then she became, like, she didn't want to hold that burden, rightfully so, for her people anymore, and so she ran away. I really wanted to hear that history, though, and it was kind of vaguely mentioned, like, the horrors of it, because obviously it was a very heavy history, but I feel like the commentary was just kind of stopped every time it tried to come through, and I honestly, I could have missed it. Like, this could totally be on me, but I, like, just, the writing style was not for me. The way that the everything was just portrayed was, like, it like, missed the mark for me. I don't know if I'm not the authority on this situation, so honestly, like, that's literally just my opinion, and other people probably have, like, this book was really highly acclaimed, so I'm sure there are other people who have much more thorough and comprehensive opinions about this book. This is simply my opinion, and I saw a couple people saying similar things on Goodreads in their reviews, so that's what I feel about The Deep, and I'd love to have a conversation about it in the comments below. If anybody else has had a different experience reading it, I would love to hear more about this book because I think it's absolutely fascinating. And I listened to an audiobook, like I said, after the actual book ended. Daveed Diggs, who narrated the book, came on and started talking about the process of writing the book and more about the mythology of the Woojinru, and I loved that. Like, that, the last, like, 10 minutes where they were talking about, like, I loved that part, and so I wished that was kind of how the whole book was, and, like, really getting into the mythology and the power of the story and things like that. It talked about how the story was, like, told in many, many different forms in many, many different ways, and it was fascinating. I wish the whole thing had been like that. And so I think I was just looking for something different in this book, and it didn't deliver in what exactly I wanted or what exactly I thought that it marketed as being. Anyway, we're gonna move on to 3-star books. The first 3-star book, which I talked about this briefly in my December TBR, is The Illness Lesson by Claire Beams. I was supposed to read this in November, but I ended up finishing it. No, I was supposed to read this in October, but I ended up finishing it in November. This is a really hard book to get through. It is very dense. There's not a lot of action. There is not a lot of dialogue. It's very, like, inner monologue-y. Basically what it's about is this woman named Caroline Hood. It takes place in, I could just tell you the year. No, I can't. 19th century New England. And this woman, Caroline, lives with her father, Samuel, and her father and his, like, what do you call, like, not the mentor, but the mentor's mentee, like, this person, like, the prodigy, kind of. His name is David. Yes, David. Okay, so Samuel and David decide to start a school just for young girls and to teach them the same way that men are taught, to prove that they are just as capable of being educated and successful as men. Great idea, but the execution was just bad, and all of this horrible stuff starts happening at the school. The girls start getting really sick, and this book is so moving to me. I gave it 3 stars, but it's still one of the most moving books I've ever read, and I can't explain this book, and I think the purpose of this book is to talk about the way that men sometimes try to be, like, activists towards women. They try to sometimes be feminists, and they just totally miss the mark because they don't actually consult women in the process. They're like, I'm doing good, and they're, like, just plowing forward, telling themselves they're doing good, that they're helping women, and then the women along the way are like, hey, stop, hey, stop, hey, stop, and they're like, no, I'm doing good. This happens a lot, and that's, like, exactly what this book is, like, Caroline starts to realize, hey, this isn't good for the girls, like, we're doing something wrong, we need to try a different approach, and like, no, we're doing good, we need the girls to succeed. Really great commentary. I so highly recommend this book, even though I gave it 3 stars, even though it might take you a while to get through. There is something so special about this book. There is something so extraordinary about this book, and I can't describe it, and I can't explain it, and it is 5 stars. The way I'm talking about it honestly now is like, wow, this book is amazing. I just want you to try, is the thing. I want you to try this book out because I think it's so good, and the end of it especially is so good. I think the first half was mainly the problem. I think the first half takes a while to get into, and the second half is like very good. I highly recommend it, and you should try it, because I think it deserves more than it's getting, more attention than it's getting. I'm having trouble with words today. Okay, so now we're getting into, I believe, like the rest of the books for this video, except for one, are all like romancy, and the reason for that is a video that I was making where I was reading like a bunch of romances that came out this year. That video should be up. I'm putting this into the universe, so I actually do it. It should be up by Wednesday after this is going to be uploaded on either Saturday or Sunday. The Wednesday after this is up, that's when I want that video to be up. So everyone send prayers that I could get that video done in time. It is exam week, so like everyone say prayers to your deity. So now we're gonna get into those books. Not all of them are from this year, but yeah. So The Bride Test by Huang, I'll talk about first. This is the second book in the Kiss Quotient trilogy. I believe it's a trilogy. The third book just came out. This one follows, if you read the Kiss Quotient, it follows the main character, Michael, from the Kiss Quotient. He's the main male love interest. His like cousin, Kai, and then a woman from Vietnam who comes to America simply to marry him. Basically, Kai's mother invites her to come to America to try to marry Kai because he is like lonely. I didn't understand that part a lot, why that happened. It seemed like a lot, because Kai didn't want that at all. So she comes to America, and then it's kind of like forced proximity trope because she has to stay in his house, kind of like enemies to lovers. I really didn't like, this book didn't wow me, just like the Kiss Quotient didn't wow me. I actually liked this one less than the Kiss Quotient. What I did love about this book, and what I loved about the Kiss Quotient, was that Kai and Stella from the Kiss Quotient, so Kai from the Bride Test, Stella from the Kiss Quotient, both had autism, and it's like a huge part of the plot. And I liked the way that Stella and Kai's autism was portrayed in different ways, because autism broadly affects people in very nuanced ways. So it affected Stella differently than it affected Kai. And I found that very interesting because I don't know a lot about autism. So I thought that was really cool. This one, I mean, there was a lot more that I didn't like about it. That, like, I just found it like very average. Like, I didn't connect with either of the characters in like a sympathetic way. Like Kai, I liked. Stella was like very average to me. Like, she didn't make a lot of sense to me, honestly. I didn't really totally get her. Like, I understood her like motivations for coming to America, not like that part. I mean, just like her personality felt very forced. I thought all of the pieces separately were very good, but the execution and the writing style just didn't work for me, and that's how I feel. I don't know. Okay, next we have November 9th by Colleen Hoover, and this is not one that came out this year. I genuinely don't know where that book is, so I'm just going to talk about it without showing it to you. November 9th, I read on November 9th. Is that not so fun? So I read this book specifically because I could read it on the day November 9th. My book club was supposed to read it together, like we're all going to read it on November 9th. I would like to say that I'm the only one who read it on November 9th. So I'm clearly the best. My one friend, Alexis, did read it. She just didn't read it on November 9th. She read it like surrounding November. I think she finished it on November 9th. My friend Sarah started it on November 9th, decided halfway through that it was too emotionally wrecking for her, and stopped, and then just read the like summary of it online. And then our other friend Morgan just didn't read it. So we're great. We're just really thriving as a book club. This book got 3 stars. This book was just like it was just a roller coaster of things happening. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about a girl, Fallon, and a guy named, I want to say Bruce. I absolutely know his name is not Bruce. Fallon and Ben! I bet it's Ben. I think it's Ben. Ben. Okay. Fallon and Ben meet one day, and then basically they meet the day that Fallon is like leaving to go to New York. I think she's in like LA and she leaves to go to New York, and they're like, okay, we're gonna meet up next year on November 9th. And then they do that. They're like, okay, every year for 5 years we're gonna meet up on November 9th. And then I'm pretty sure they're like, after the 5 years we're gonna get married or something. Fallon, I don't remember what she does, but Ben is a writer. And then basically drama ensues. It gets absolutely insane. There are secrets, there are twists, there are lies. This book is such a roller coaster. It is, you never see it coming. You never see anything coming. I never saw it coming. I think I cried. Definitely. Also, I didn't like the characters. So I thought Fallon was like a lot. She like was a lot of person. Like, and then Ben was also a lot. They were perfect for each other. They were both a lot. Like, they were both a lot. I think they are so unique and nuanced that you would never find somebody like them in real life. So, I really don't know what else to say about this book, except I don't even know if you should read it. Like, was it worth my time? Maybe? No conclusion for this book. I have nothing more to say about this book. Like, that's the 100% truth. Okay, so now we're gonna get into, the rest of these books are all published in 2021 except for one of them. Next, One Last Stop by Casey Mcquisten, 3 stars. This book is about, will I remember the names of the people in the book? June? Crap! I'm the worst. August? No, that can't be it. It was August for sure, and Jane. I was so close. Okay, Jane and August. Okay, August moves to New York City for college. She goes on the train and meets Jane, who's like this really cool looking lady, and then they keep seeing each other on the train, and August is like, why do I keep seeing this person on the train? Somehow she comes to the conclusion that Jane is not a real person, is like a ghost basically. Not really a ghost though. Some kind of thing. And then, am I spoiling anything? I don't think so. And she basically is like, how do I set Jane free from the train? She's like stuck on the train forever. I had high expectations for this book, was pretty disappointed. I thought it was like really weirdly paced. I loved the characters. I loved August and Jane, but I didn't like the sci-fi aspect to it with the whole like ghost situation. I really was not really into that. I think that there were so many like convenient things in this book, like why didn't August really ever have to go to class? It was just very unrealistic. Like, it's one of those movies where, like, the girl, like, she has a job and she goes to school, but, like, you never actually see her in those places. And then the other thing was, it's one of those things where, like, the girl goes to the new city, she's like, I went to the new city because I don't have any friends, and, like, I just want to start over because, like, everybody knows me, but, like, nobody likes me and I have no friends. And immediately, everyone loves her who she encounters. So that's a lot. I think this book was not as well developed as Red, White, and Royal Blue. I think it was very tropey, and the ending, like, just didn't make sense to me that much. I feel like it was another situation of, like, very convenient. And that's pretty much my thoughts on One Last Stop. And next is Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This is a Greek mythology inspired romance in a city. Like, it's not like ancient Greece. Like, the people are named after Greek gods, but it's just like a regular city. But there's also a weird government system where, like, all of the people who are named after gods rule the city, except for the other half of the city, which is ruled by Hades. There's absolutely no explanation to why that is the case. I don't know where the city is. Is it in America? Is it some cult in America where everybody's named after Greek gods? I don't know. So I went into this thinking that these people actually had superpowers. They're just regular people. They're just humans. Super weird. Basically, it's about Persephone, who is like the daughter of one of the big 13 people in charge of the government, and her mother, Demeter, is basically like, hey, you're gonna marry Zeus, and she's like, hey, I don't want to marry Zeus, and so then she runs away. She accidentally runs into, like, the lower city where she meets Hades. They, like, basically instantly fall in love. And then there's drama and spice, and it's intense. It's intense. I'm not gonna lie, guys. It's intense. This book was okay. I mean, it was really highly hyped, so I had high expectations. It was okay. I mean, I wish that there had been some explanation to why this city is the way that it was ridiculous. There was no, I really hung up on this, and maybe that really lowered my rating, and maybe that's not fair. I'm super hung up on this. The romance also was just, like, kind of cheesy. It was one of those where it's like, I'll do anything for you, and, like, oh, when the guy hears the girl's voice, then he stops whatever he's doing, and he's like, oh, anger issues. And I'm like, I'm over that. Been there, done that. I'm not here for that, you know? So, I think it was very Wattpad, and so I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. I wouldn't recommend it, I don't think. I wouldn't be like, oh, this is something you have. Like, there are so many other books, even romances, that I would recommend before that book. You know what I'm saying. I don't need to keep explaining this. Next, How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams. I don't remember this book at all, and I read it last month. I think what happens is a woman goes to a bar one day and meets a guy, and they just, like, fall in love with each other. Naya and Jake, those are their names. I don't remember anything about this book. It was super unmemorable. Very just like your average romance. Guy meets a girl, they fall in love, you know, he's only in town for a little bit, he has to go out of town, long distance relationship, turns out twist of situation, and they can't be together, and then they end up together. Like, it was just kind of one of those. Again, there's a lot of romances that I'd recommend before I got to this one. It was okay. I mean, honestly, probably recommend that one over Neon Gods. So, okay, moving on to number 4. We're gonna break up the romances with one classic, The Awakening by Chopin. I had to read this for a class, which is why it's kind of just thrown in here. This is a book, a classic written by Chopin. He was like one of the first American feminist writers, and this book is about a woman named Edna, who is, like, on vacation. She basically starts having, like, existential crises about womanhood, and that's the story. It's all about her existential crisis about womanhood. Very fascinating. Highly recommend. I feel like this is one of those books that you want to read before you die. That's such a gruesome thing to say, want to read before you die. That's what people say, though, I guess. So basically, this book is about a crisis of womanhood, the role of women in society. It's about domineering husbands and infatuation and music and art, and that's all I have to say about it. I gave it 4 stars. It was very good. The ending is wild, so highly recommend you read it. Honestly, this is a book I would recommend. Okay, next, another romance. The X Talk. This one I gave 4 stars. I listened to this one in audio. Probably would not recommend the audiobook for this one. This is, like, one of the only romances I've listened to instead of read, and there are certain scenes that I think are just more comfortable to read than be read to. You know what I mean? But anyway, this book got, like, high 4 stars. It's written by Rachel Lynn Solomon. First I've read from her, but I definitely want to continue reading from her. This book follows a woman named Shay Goldstein? I don't know. And Dominic Yun. And basically, they work at this radio station. The radio station is, like, failing, and they're like, we know what to do. Well, actually, I think this is Shay's idea. She's like, what can we do? We need a new kind of radio show that'll, like, break out new and exciting. And they basically have this idea to have 2 exes. It's called the X Talk. And have 2 exes go on the show and talk about, like, what went wrong in their relationship, and then, like, give advice to, like, other people and tell, like, silly stories and stuff. So they choose Shay and Dominic, who aren't exes. They've never dated. And Shay actually hates Dominic. But then they get to know each other, and there's, like, forced proximity and, like, enemies to lovers, and it was, like, very good. I enjoyed this book a lot. I would highly recommend it. So if that's one of the ones you're, like, on the fence about, here's your sign. Read the X Talk. I mean, if you have to listen to it, go ahead. But just, it's a, you know, alright. So now we're getting into 5 stars. Okay, both of these are very hyped books. I'm sure you've heard of them if you are familiar with romances. But the first one is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Laurian. This book is about a company who believes that they can find your soulmate genetically. They can find a certain, like, strand in your DNA, and then find your soulmate, like, in their system. Like, they have a bunch of people's DNA, like thousands of people in there, and they're every day getting thousands more, and they can genetically find your match. And then you have like a dating app, and it matches you with people. There's like different levels of matches and stuff, and then there's like platinum match, which like is the best match ever, and then it keeps updating like as more and more people get in the system. This is about a woman named Jess who meets Rivers Pina, and he's the doctor. He like basically like founded this company that does this, and through a course of events she ends up like submitting her DNA, and then they find out that they're like a 98% match, which is like the highest possible that's ever been done, and they're like one of like three couples in the world that has happened to. And they're like, what? We don't even like each other. But then they are like, wait, maybe we do like each other. And then it kind of like chronicles their journey. And then like the ending, we all know about like the act 3 drama of romances where everything kind of falls apart. I hate act 3 of any romance basically ever, especially because the miscommunication trope comes in, and then it's just, it bothers me so much. This is one of the most unique Act 3 situations that I've ever read. My heart was actually pounding. I was on the edge of my seat. It was beautiful and tragic, and I loved it, and it was insane. I actually really enjoyed Act 3 of this book, and I don't think I've ever said that in my life. It was so uniquely done. My one critique of this book, which doesn't lower my rating at all, was the science talk was pretty heavy at certain points, and I did not understand what was going on. It went straight over my head. I understood like in the conclusion like what it all meant, but I found some of the science talk a little bit unnecessary and too much for my small pea-sized brain. I couldn't understand what was happening at certain points, but I did understand what the ramifications and what the consequences and what the meaning of those science-y bits were. My transition was going to be, speaking of science-y bits, but that's stupid and I'm not going to do it. Yay! The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. I'm sure you've seen everybody talking about this book, and so I'm going to talk about it too, because I don't want to be left out of anything ever. This is a romance about these two people. Basically what happens is one day, these two people are walking down the hallway, and she sees her best friend, and she told her best friend that she was going to be on a date. Why that's important is not important to this, what I'm talking about right now, but basically she has to convince her friend that she's on a date. So she runs up to this guy and like starts making out with him. He's like, what? And then she's like, sorry, I had to do that. Basically I have to keep pretending to date in order to convince her friend, but also like he benefits from it as well for other reasons. But so it's like fake dating, but like also they start to realize that they're not actually fake dating, and I loved this book so much. This book, man, so good. So I think I'm so good at speaking. Very good romance, very good, well thought out characters, like depth, like dimensional characters. I will give like a slight trigger warning, and this isn't like a major trigger warning, but it like upset me when I was reading it, but like it was important to the book. So like this is like, just so you know this happens, and you might be triggered by it, but you should read it anyway. And it's not like, that sounded wrong, like I should force people to read their triggers, and that's not what I'm saying. Maybe trigger warning isn't the right word. It's just like warning, there is major sexism in this book, not between the two main characters. Like, I'm not saying this man is sexist. He's absolutely not sexist. She experiences sexism in the STEM industry because she's also a science girl, and so she experiences sexism, and it was like intense sexism that really bugged me and really made me feel icky and gross, and I did not like it whatsoever. But I think it's important to read that stuff to realize that actually happens. I mean, I think if you're a woman, you know that happens, so this is to the men. If there's any men watching this video and wanting to read a romance that has sexism and you want to be aware of sexism when it's happening around you, read this book. Those are all the books I read. So I'm gonna wrap this wrap up. That was dumb. So, moral of the story is read Christina Laurian, read The Love Hypothesis, and bye from Ana Louisa. to remind you, buy one get one 60% off sale at Ana Luisa right now. You can get these pieces, which I'll have linked in the description below. I highly recommend you check them out just to see what they have to offer, and I guarantee you they have something for everyone there. Highly recommend you check that out. Check the description out in below. And with that said, that is the end of this video. Let me know what you read in November and what your favorite books were that you read in November. I hope you have a great day, I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great life, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye bye!